Hi, friends. Today I want to talk a little bit about what happened on the set of Rust. Obviously, I'm not a Hollywood person. I work in healthcare, and on the healthcare side, what I do is process improvement. I look at errors and I investigate and try to figure out what we can do to fix it so it doesn't happen again. I debated doing this video just because I try to stay away from any type of topic that could cause a debate, because what my thoughts are my thoughts. But I thought long and hard and I wanted to do this video because so many people, I think, just see what's in the media and they only see the end product. In this case, a tragic event where somebody on the set got shot by Alec Baldwin and was killed. Now, I have been through so many investigations, since that's my job in healthcare, and I have a different perspective, and I'm not doing this video because I am a fan of Alec Baldwin. He said, I watch his movies. He's okay. I'm not a crazed fan or anything. I'm not really. He's okay. But I don't think people should start criticizing people right now after an event. Just like an event happens in healthcare, that person is devastated. And so the first thing that I will say to them before I do an investigation is, how are you doing? Because what people fail to understand sometimes is that the person at the end has to carry that throughout their whole life. I've made mistakes in healthcare, thank goodness, nothing that harmed a patient, and I still remember those errors. Even though there was no harm, I still remember them. And nobody's perfect. Nobody wakes up in the morning saying, I'm going to harm somebody today. And there's 85% of errors that occur is due to the process and not the human being. In this case, yes, I get there was some negligence. I saw today that one of the crew members used those guns for target shooting, but I'm sure it was not intentional. At least I hope not. Now, if at the end of the day this comes out and something was intentional, that's a whole different story. That is murder. But what we have to look at is any event that happens is, if it's a process that failed, many processes that failed, it just happened to line through the holes of the Swiss cheese and end up in a disaster. And this happens a lot in healthcare. It just doesn't get the media attention, thank goodness. So could you imagine every healthcare professional that's made a drastic mistake, and not only do they have to live with it, but then it goes into the media and the whole world knows? Yes, some very, very big events might go into the media, but for the most part, they don't go to the media. So yes, that person still has to live with it, but not like what the people on the set are right now, with all the criticism and blaming. You cannot blame one person for events. It's a process. And yes, they might have voiced concerns before it happened. But how many of you, the leaders out there, how many of you have disregarded someone's concerns because you are overworked, you have to meet deadlines, you're under budget, all these pressures in the world today, not just healthcare. I just talk about healthcare because that's what I know, but other industries. Look at manufacturing. There's people who cut corners all the time. And if they make an error, maybe the product is wrong, and maybe it costs the company money, but nothing like a death. And that is so horrible. Healthcare. 250,000 people die every year from a medical error, and that's what I'm trying to do so much in healthcare is fix that. And that's part of my job is when an error occurs to investigate so it doesn't happen again. So in this case, yes, people might have brought up concerns, but it's not one person's fault. It just makes everybody take a step back and say, this is why we have protocols, and this is why we allow people to voice their concerns. I've had many instances where nurses felt something wrong but was afraid to question a physician, and then something happens, and then they have to think in the back of their mind, carry this with them the rest of their life, that if I only spoke up. I don't know how many times that's happened. Thank goodness the culture is shifting in healthcare to allow people to speak up and voice concerns. But they're not always listened to either, not all the time. We try to say yes, and it's not anybody's fault. It's just the pressures of today's world of getting things done and doing it right. That's the pressures. People cut corners all the time. I'm sure every single one of you that are listening have cut corners and not follow protocol, or not listen to a concern, whether it's in your job or even your kids, maybe. I don't know. But it just hasn't led to that tragic accident yet. It just was unlucky for these people. It so happened that the holes lined just right in the Swiss cheese model for it to happen. And this is why we need to stop blaming people and look at the process and fix it, and try to allow people to take a step back and breathe and try to follow the protocols, because there's reasons why the protocols can't be followed. And I mean, not that it can't be followed, it's just the reasons why they didn't follow it, I should say. And that's what the investigation needs to happen. Yes, they have to investigate from a legal standpoint and a criminal standpoint in this case, but just like in the BP oil disaster, people voiced their concerns, but they're behind budget, and they were behind the deadline, so they didn't listen to the concerns. They cut corners, and look what happened. Unfortunately, when major disasters happens in other industries, because it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does happen, it's a disaster. It's a huge catastrophe. But I think they said that the last fatal accident in Hollywood was 2015, and hundreds of thousands of rounds are fired on the set every day, they said. I can't remember the exact number, but and so one fatal shot is, I'm actually like, wow, they must have some good protocols if this has only happened like twice in like 6 years. Unfortunate for the victims of that family and friends. It's not good. They're gonna want to know answers, and that's typical. Of course, anybody that has a tragic event in their family, they want answers, and yes, they're going to find answers, but to automatically start pushing blame on the end user is not a good thing. And I'm sure he feels devastated. I hope, if he's any real person. I mean, I obviously don't know celebrities, and they can be jerks sometimes, I mean, I've never met really any celebrity, but just what I've heard from other people and like kind of their attitudes, like in other media. But again, there's the media for you. They seem like they're jerks, but they're still a human being, and they didn't intentionally do this. And I've seen some memes already out about Alec Baldwin. and that's not fair. Yes, I'm sure he knows he has to deal with it. If you're a celebrity, you're gonna have to deal with social media and whether something good or bad happens, people criticizing. But if we don't stop this criticism throughout the world, this is this world is gonna just keep getting worse. And have compassion and let the people process this tragic event before we start throwing all this stuff out there. Let's look at what process failures happened. Again, 85% of errors are due to the process and not intentional. Again, if any of this was intentional, yes, they deserve to be criticized and charged with a criminal offense. But America, we need to stop this. It's hard. I mean, every single person, I don't care who you are, you're not perfect. I'm sure you've made an error. It just hasn't been maybe as tragic, and and maybe not as at a global scale. And of course, your tragic accident might not have gone to the media. So then, not only do you have to deal with it internally on yourself, but you have to deal with it with all the ridicule. How would you feel? And that poor family, I pray for them, and my thoughts and prayers are for that woman and her family and friends. It's an awful event, and it's just disheartening when anything like this happens, and the media attention, but the negative media attention, it's disheartening. And I hope it's something resonated with you guys today on this video. Again, I'm not making light of this situation. I'm trying to put it in perspective from me, since I do a lot of performance improvement at the hospital. I have been on both sides. Again, luckily, no harm to my patients, but I just got lucky that the holes didn't line right up for a disaster to happen when I was working at the bedside. And that's why I take the quality at the hospital so seriously, and I have such a passion because I know how hard it is to work at the bedside, and I want to make not only the process easier for nurses if I can, and the doctors and anybody else that's working as a healthcare professional. I don't care if it's from the housekeeper, dietary, to the CEO. If I can make anybody's life easier and make it a difference just to one patient, then I feel like I've done a good job. And I'm going to keep striving. But yes, I don't really do performance improvement in other industries. I have been on manufacturing side of things. Whenever I was occupational health nurse, I helped out in the performance improvement area at a factory, but not as much as I have in the last 12 years in healthcare. And I hope this video left you with a different perspective and not place blame on people. And let's stop putting the negative stuff out there and let the people in this tragic accident cope and grieve and process what happened before you guys all criticize or blame somebody. And some of you are not going to blame, and I thank you for that. And you might, and it's okay to talk about it, and because obviously it's it's natural. We're all humans. We're going to talk about it, like I am today. I was debating not to, but let's just remember some of these points. I hope some of this made a point with you. And please, this is not meant to be anything negative or anything, so please don't think it is. I'm making light of the situation in any way, shape, or form. Have a good day, and hope you enjoyed what I said.